Hello, friends. Welcome back to Twos to Teens, Parenting Authentically Through the Seasons with Betty and Ellie. Today, we have a very special episode. This is our fourth episode within the Generational Pattern series. And today, we're going to do something a little bit different. I am going to be technically in the hot seat, kind of like another parent, right, receiving a coaching session. As parent coaches, one of the things that we recognize is that we are only able to guide our clients as deep as we have been ourselves. So we take a lot of pride and practice in um, honestly and consistently evaluating, right, and having awareness into what comes into our lives and seeing what things start to uncover as we go with this work. So today I am here with Ellie, and Ellie is going to walk us through a coaching session. What's special about today is that we haven't talked about what we are going to discuss today. So, this is going to be a surprise for all of us. We want it to be authentic and for you to get a taste of what it looks like to actually work with your generational patterns and how do we begin to soften them during a coaching session. So, with further ado, I am Betty Artiaga Muriel, and I work with driven, high achieving parents who are thriving in their careers but feel overwhelmed and disconnected at home. I guide them from surviving family life to leading their families with strength, compassion, and connection. And with me today is Ellie. Hi, Ellie. How you doing?
Hi, I'm great. I'm excited to coach you today. We haven't done this in a while. Um, and I'm Ellie Knott of Ellie Chase Coaching. I help parents of young children who are feeling really lost in all of the noise about what they feel like they should be doing, find their authentic parenting path so they can raise their kids with more connection, confidence, and joy. And Betty, are you ready to get started today?
Whew, yes, I feel everything coming coming up, but I am very excited to get into it.
Yeah, and it's totally normal to have a little bit of those nerves before you go into a session, especially if you've never done it before. And so I always like to start with a grounding exercise. And today I'd like to do a really simple one of Betty, can you just share with us a simple moment in parenting recently that has made you feel out of joy or maybe has made you laugh?
That made me laugh. Um, let's see. I think yesterday during drop off, my daughter was seeing a little crush, and she might be mortified that I say this, but she was talking about this little crush, and they're about to graduate. And then I got into telling her about my high school crush, and we just had such a great laugh because it was such a silly story, and we laughed so hard right before she got out. And I feel it lifted off both our spirits just to be able to share, right, our experiences. And for me to remind me that what it is to be 16.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds so special. And maybe she also got the chance to see, like, oh, yeah, one day this will be a silly crush,
Yeah.
in the past, if nothing
Yeah.
comes of it, to give her that other perspective too.
Mhm.
Well, let's dive in today. So, we've been talking about generational patterns. And if you were in the transformational parenting experience, as you have been before, you would have been learning about it through workbooks and videos in the curriculum instead of the podcast episodes that we've just been doing. But either way, it's on the top of your brain, those things that come from your family, right, through the generations. And now, as you start to parent your own children, you realize this is not how I want to do things,
Mhm.
but it feels so hardwired in my system.
Yeah.
What has come up for you, as we've been making these last few episodes and talking about these things? What have you been, starting to notice some of those
Mhm.
patterns that are still, still coming through?
Yeah, I think that while you were talking, the one thing that was coming to mind is actually very fresh just from this morning. I think it's because I have it very fresh in me. And it was about my reaction. While my yesterday's drop off was very happy, this morning my son, when I dropped him off, he was on more of a sad side, and I felt bad that I left him at school in that mood. But the reason was because I asked him, "Did you brush your teeth this morning?" And I could and he said, "I think I did." And I can already tell, like, no, because you went straight from your room getting dressed to my room because he likes to cuddle in the morning. And then I saw you going straight downstairs to have breakfast. So, at what time that happened? And then he made this face. He has a all the moms we know, they have tails, right? Telltales, like, they're lying. And he put this face that he does when he's very obviously telling a lie. And I was like, the way that I reacted, it was immediately like, I don't like lies. It's very disrespectful. It is not the right thing to do. I don't understand why you have to lie to me. I know you don't want to get in trouble, but the lying is not necessary. Like, why are you lying about it if you know you didn't do it? And I think I was too rough immediately, um about it. And then then he stayed really quiet, and I could see him like getting quiet and getting kind of like teary. And afterwards I feel really bad because it's like, I'm not sure why necessarily I had to be maybe so tough, or maybe something that I could have talked to him later. I don't like to leave them like that for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can hear kind of those, beliefs bubbling up about lying, and about what that means of, are you respecting your parent if you're lying to them?
Mhm.
Um, and then for you, you had that really heavy feeling of like, I didn't like the way I handled that, and I didn't have the chance to fix it before I sent him off to school for
Yeah.
the day. So I can see it's something that's definitely, weighing heavy on you, and now having to like wait the entire day to be able to have that moment of repair, later when you pick him up from school.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm curious if, you can relate that to any experiences in your childhood of where those beliefs might have originated from for you.
I mean, I was a liar when I was younger, like very much so. And it started very young. Like, I have memories even from first grade. I think it's the biggest one. I think it was from first grade, and there was this book and I lost it. And of course, now I know I have ADHD. Back then I didn't know, but I will lose everything. And I lost the book, and we needed it for school. And every day I will tell my teacher that, oh no, my mom is gonna get it, and I already talked to her, and all of these things. And from there, I think it started all the way probably to high school and even
Mm-hmm.
college, where I will definitely lie. It's something that I have been working very hard with myself to, like, not resort to lying in cases, because sometimes I still have the urge to, like, I'm gonna tell a lie. And that is something that is one of the values, right? Being truthful, that I really keep dear to me in my home, is one of my three. And I do tell my kids a lot, talk to them a lot about that. Like, I will rather you tell me the truth, and for me to, like, handle it at the moment, than you lie to me and then I later find out. Like, the truth always comes out. So I can definitely see why, or how it can relate to from when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
and all the trouble that lying cost me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share what happened when you lied or when you got caught in a lie when you were younger?
Well, when I was younger, that first one from first grade, I got a really good spanking, a little more than a spanking. I just, right, don't want to be too graphic, but yeah, it got physical, yes. And as I grew older, anytime that I was cutting a line, that was like the worst. It was bad for the person. Maybe the consequences as I got older weren't as extreme, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely lost friendships. because of it. A lot of like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like more of like the silent treatment, right? You are like ostracized from the family because now we caught you in a lie. And it
Mm.
definitely put me in a position of a lot of shame, because then now I'm caught, right? And I will be the one that I will go until the last. I will die on that hill of no, I'm telling the truth, when I obviously knew that I was lying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you feel that anywhere in your body right now? Is that getting activated on a somatic
Well,
level
I
at all?
feel like tears coming out definitely through here, right there. The little like sniffles through
Hmm.
here. I feel like let me see if I can explain it, more like a bubbly sensation, kind of like when you are nervous, similar
Mm.
to that, coming to it. And in the chest, I will say it's more like sadness looking back.
Yeah. Yeah. I can hear how that was, really heavy part and something that definitely, followed you through your childhood. And even like you said, into adulthood now, where it's still something that you're working on. Um, and I really, I noticed how you said it brought up a lot of shame for you.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm kind of curious how are you feeling besides that really gut reaction of kind of being hard on your son when you realized he was telling a lie? What emotions were coming up at that point too?
I will say one of them will be fear that maybe he might be going through that same path.
Mm,
Like what is gonna obviously cost him too if he keeps lying. Like if he lies to me about brushing his teeth, like where are we going with this? mm. Also, he's my baby and he's 9, and I remember that age in my daughter was like when things started to change. So kind of longing too for that little boy that didn't want to, that wouldn't lie to me, because he knows, he knew that lying wouldn't get him anywhere. So it's kind of like, yeah, that fear. There was a little longer, but there was, I guess, a lot of fear about what does this mean, that he's like, he's gonna, is he gonna start lying now, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, and go down that same path. So that
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense then if there's that fear underneath that like almost mama bear side
Yeah.
comes out. That's like, whoa, we need to stop this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that comes out
Mm-hmm.
in a really kind of strong forceful way, um, that ended up not working so great in this situation, right? Because he
Yeah.
shut down, um, and then you were left feeling like, oh, I didn't want to drop him off at school that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Because I saw he was upset. I think that was what kind of like woke me up
Mm,
from the reaction, right? That when I saw him, that he started to cry, not because not because I feel like, oh, he can cry or he can be sad, but I feel like at that moment, as we are like approaching the school right now, I'm seeing that he's upset, and then that other mama bear also off. So I don't think that this might have been the best time to talk about this. Kind of like
yeah.
stop me. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had that like pull back to reality. Um,
Mm,
but
mm-hmm.
for this moment, it was, maybe a little later than you would have hoped that you could have had that like snap back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I want to go back again, to your experience of this in childhood, and I'm curious if you're able to identify what you might have been needing in those times when you were lying, and maybe like what could you have had in those moments that would have helped you not feel the compulsion to lie.
Hmm. As I have thought about this other times for different circumstances, and I think there was kind of like a sense of belonging and acceptance kind of way. But um I I really needed appreciation, like words of affirmation, kind of like you're
Mm,
doing a great job type of way. That was the thing that will brighten my day up. Or let me say it this way, like the only times, right, that I will receive kind of like that familiar connection will be if I'm doing things right. So I will always try to be kind of like the teacher's pet, or or kind of like be the likable one, because that made me feel like we were kind of like connected, or that people like me. So a lot of the lying was definitely around that. It was my mask. I basically created like a different character, right? I was able to put myself in a situation of how am I gonna get out of this trouble, and I was able to create kind of like a different reality for me, where I will end up looking good.
mm,
Because the fear of being set aside, like now I don't belong, now you're gonna see me a different way, now you're gonna lose respect for me. um it was really hard. Even back in first grade, it was like that was my absolute favorite teacher back then. And it was, I for some reason I didn't want her to know, and then my parents were always on me about you're always losing things. So it was like I don't want to tell them that I lost this book because I'm gonna get in a lot of trouble. And I don't know, I think like probably the most of it is a lot of need for connection and belonging.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can hear the, the shame coming up again, like you mentioned earlier. And then, yeah, that need for acceptance and kind of feeling like you had a sense of control over
Mm.
whether or not you would be accepted, right? Kind of taking that into your own hands in other
Yeah.
ways where you felt like you couldn't, right? You couldn't remember where
Mhm.
you put your book, which now as an adult, symptom of my ADHD, right? Not your
Mhm.
fault. But as a kid, you didn't have that understanding. And you were like, well, if I can't figure out where my book is, I guess I'll just lie about it, right? That's the next best thing I could do.
Mhm.
Um, and so, having a little compassion for yourself there of like, it was the best way that little Betty could figure out how do I get what I need here?
Yeah.
Um, and your parents, it sounds like they probably didn't have that awareness and that attunement to be able to really see that, right? To see through, or beyond the lying, to see what was happening beyond it.
I will even say that they were the ones who taught me to lie, in
Mm,
a sense, in not in a sense, in a very obvious way. um i'm not I'm not gonna say we're a family of liars, but I did learn very early on the importance of covering face, or like masking, or being presenting yourself to the world in a different way. And I will be even coached by my parents. I will remember my mom, right? Before we will get into the family, I was a talk. I'm still a talker. Like, what am I talking about? But I was a talker as a kid. So I will be, one of the little kids where you're telling all your business in the family meetings. So I will get coached beforehand.
mm,
Like, you're gonna do this. You cannot. One of the things that my mom will tell me is, I don't want you like right by me all night, so you have to kind of like spread around and then go away. And then the other thing is, now you're going, but you cannot talk about this, or about this. And if they ask you about this particular question, this is what you're going
mm,
to answer. And
yeah.
I still see it. I will even sometimes confront my mom and be like, why do you have to lie about this? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, why are you? And she gets frustrated and she gets angry with me when I call her out. Definitely. And I try not to do it all, but to me right now, it's like, I have a need now to be truthful,
Mm-hmm.
in order for me to feel like authentic, and feel like I am who I am, kind of way, like in an acceptance kind of way. But yeah, I feel like, it definitely comes from my family, because I was coached, and it's crazy, right? Because if they ask you as their parent, if they will ask me to lie or to, the truth, to say it in a different way, then it was okay. But if I
Mm,
was lying for my own reasons, then you are a bad person. You're a bad kid. You're not supposed to do that, and then you get all these labels.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And how confusing is that, for you as a child, having
Mm,
this kind of double standard and
mm-hmm.
these weird expectations of like, sometimes I can lie and it's good and it's what I'm supposed to do. And then other times I lie and I get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, recognizing, where that came from is so important because you can, instead of having this as like something that is a part of you, it is a part of your family lineage, right? And so it's not
Mm-hmm.
something that you intentionally decided was going to be a part of you, but it was something that was taught to you, was passed down to you, and is just like a matter of your circumstances, right? And it sounds like you've definitely decided it's not something that you want to carry forward. You want to go completely the opposite and really lean into truth and honesty. So much so that it's one of your core values for
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right? And for your family.
Yeah.
So let's take it, back to the present now. And, we talked about, your needs were, for acceptance, for belonging. Um, do you have an idea of what your son may have been needing this morning when he was, lying about brushing his teeth?
Pretty much the same thing. Diago is very similar to me in the fact that he thrives. He loves to receive, good praises,
Mm,
and he usually does get. You see the switch in him when it's not a praise, and we are talking about things that are uncomfortable and stuff. I do see him in many ways. He reminds me of me in those areas, right? So I think this morning he might just, let me see. Hmm. I don't know. I think that I can't even put into words what he might be needing. Maybe feelings. Maybe he was feeling a little shame that he
mm,
knows he's supposed to brush his teeth. And maybe some fear that then now I'm gonna get in trouble. Maybe I won't get to play later with my games or do something. I don't know.
yeah.
Or maybe there's a fear. I can maybe guess on the feelings, but the needs are getting hard. Not sure.
Yeah. Is that something that you'll be able to connect with him after school and, maybe, make some empathy guesses about his
Mhm.
feelings and, try to together get to what those needs were, um, and maybe together figure out like how could we have handled this situation differently so that we didn't
Mhm.
have that, just yucky feeling drop off.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And I did tell him that we will talk about it later. When he and I we will talk about it later. But yeah, I don't want obviously to kind of like bombard him just when
Mm,
he gets home either, right? But I do, now that you mention it, definitely trying to figure out what is that need, because I'm still thinking and I'm like, I don't know exactly what he was needing right there.
yeah. Yeah, I wonder if he might have the language to tell you that, or if, if he's able to express his feelings and that might help you get a better idea of what he might be needing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will definitely think about then a way of having a conversation, probably not once he gets home, but today,
Mm,
about about what happened,
yeah.
and ask him what was going what was going on, what was his experience
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, he also really appreciates having like those words of affirmation, the praise. So I'm wondering if there's a way that you can think of to connect with him and give him some of that before you enter into this conversation.
Okay. Yes, to start with the appreciation
Hmm.
of who he is,
Yeah.
etc. Before. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might not even be directly related to the conversation that you're going to
Mhm.
have. It might be, something else, but being able to start on, that really high note in a place where like you're connected and you both feel good before you have the hard conversation.
Mhm.
How does
To
that
kind of
sound?
like breach into it type of
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that sound?
Like a plan. Definitely better than kind of like having it inside of me all day
Mm,
and not knowing what to do. So definitely like a plan.
yeah. Yeah. Is there any other like questions or thoughts that is coming up for you around all this?
I like what you said about control earlier. I don't think I had thought about it in that way. That might have been my way to stay in control of the situation of what was happening, right? I'm presenting myself in this way, and this is the way that I can control it, and that makes a lot of sense now that
Hmm.
you say it, because it definitely provided me with that sort of I can control the way that people see me. I can control the outcome in this situation in a moment in my life, especially as I was a kid, that I felt like I had absolutely no control of anything.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that you said that, because I've never thought about it in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that fits in with that kind of stage of development too. Where around that like, 7, 8, 9, and where your son is right now. One of their big developmental needs is kind of like putting into place and understanding, am I capable of doing the
Mm,
things that I set out to do? Right.
mm,
And in those moments where they feel like they're not, there can be a lot of feelings of like, shame, or embarrassment there,
mhm.
because that's just kind of like where they are. So that might, fit into your story and his story and kind of just give a little more context of, why that need to feel like you did the thing even if you didn't is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's making more sense.
Yeah. Well, Betty, thank you so much for getting in the hot seat today, getting really vulnerable, and letting your feelings come up. Sharing so much so that our audience could see what a real coaching session is like. And I'm excited to hear later when we chat about how it goes this afternoon, when you come back and have that conversation and, what you do find out. And that is one of the great things about working with a coach is that you get to come back, week after week, um, and, keep making that progress and see how things going and continue to tweak and, just figure out those strategies and figure out what's going on in your family. But before we go, I'll ask you, Betty, if you have just one takeaway from our session together today, what would it be?
Um, I will say that I am still trying to control things in a certain way.
Mm,
In the way even my kind of like sense of value of truth, it is kind of like in a way for me to be able to control who I am or how am I presented, and maybe how are my kids maybe seeing that. I think that the takeaway will be maybe to kind of evaluate in in what other areas, or in this area, how is it that I'm expressing that control now, and how might my kids be experiencing that from their side. I found it very curious that I couldn't really get to like a need in
mm-hmm.
particular, but it does give me like openness and curiosity to kind of like, oh, okay, this is something that I want to explore more.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what'll come up there for you. Yeah. Well,
And
thank
thank
you
you,
so
Ellie,
much.
for
Yeah.
for this great session. Definitely something unexpected,
Mm-hmm.
unexpected but beautiful. And I really appreciate you guiding me through all of that. And a lot of things came up. And I do appreciate how beautifully you were able to flow it and connect it. That was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a great time getting the chance to coach you again. Because I don't think we've done that since we were in our training program together.
Yes.
So it's been a long time. Um, but if you're watching this and you love this, if you feel like this is the type of work that you're drawn to, and getting deeper, figuring out what's underneath and being able to take that and use it to, improve yourself now and to figure out how you want to do things and do it in a way that feels really good and authentic to you, then parent coaching is the place for you to be. So if you'd like to work with me, you can go to my website, elliechasecoaching.com. And you can go to the contact page there where you can find my email, or you can schedule a curiosity call. It's free. It's no pressure. We can just talk. You can see, how I can support you. And there's never any, pressure to commit to anything. It's just a conversation. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Ellie Chase Coaching, and sign up for my newsletter so you can get these podcasts straight to your inbox, along with other just quick little parenting tips and tidbits. And Betty, if someone wants to work with you, how can they find you?
Yes, if today's conversation resonated with you and you're feeling that pull to grow in the way you show up in your parenting, I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at your underscore parenting underscore story, where I share tools, reflections, and resources for the driven, high achieving parents who want their parenting to reflect both fierce leadership and compassion. You can also visit yourparentingstory.com for resources, more information about my work, and to schedule a free curiosity call where we can explore what's coming up in your parenting and what support might look like for you. So, and if you'd rather reach out to me directly, you can always email me at coachbetty@yourparentingstory.com. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And like Betty said, this is our last episode of this series around generational patterns. The next series is going to be coming out in May, and it's going to be all about emotions. May can be a very emotional month. We have Mother's Day, we have the end of school, the last day of school, we have graduations. All of these transitional times of the year can bring up so many emotions. So we want to know, what do you want to hear about emotions? What questions do you have? What topics would you like us to cover? Comment them down below, and we'll make sure to include them in our plans. And we can't wait to see you guys next time. And all the way from twos to teens, remember that you've got this.
You got this.